And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore podcast, where we never sit out. I'm your host, Matthew Dawson, and joining again today, as always, is C to the D, Dawson, for our week 3 preview. Let's go.
Love it. Oh, hey, week 3. Everyone's sleeping on week 3 right now. Stop
Everyone's
it.
sleeping.
Stop it
Gosh,
right now. It's every year this happens, and there's multiple weeks of the year that are down weeks, and some shit always happens. You know why? Because this week it's sandwiched in between a crazy week 2 and a crazy week 4. You have a lot of teams that are coming off major highs and big wins, and a lot of teams that are coming off or looking ahead to huge matchups week 4, right? You got top 10 teams on the road. You've got conference play starting in some conferences. You got some cool out of conference matchups still going on. Group of 5 teams are going to shock some Power 5 teams this week. I know it. It always happens. Make sure you're watching this week. I know we will be.
it feels like every year we sleep on, there's a couple weeks in the season where we sleep, right? And we're just like, oh, there's no good games this weekend. And that is the weekend that comes around and some FCS team comes in and, picks on a Division 1 team or Power 5 team, or you come out and you get a G5 team upsetting a giant favorite, right? So it's like, come on, what are we doing here? We got some good games today. I think we got 9 games on our preview slate. Last week there were 12. So look, quality over quantity, right? We're gonna get games that we want to talk about, right? If we missed a game of your teams, right, make sure you let us know in the comments. So we'll make sure not to miss that team in the future. But ultimately, we want to talk about what we want to talk about. We're not going to apologize for that at all. So, absolutely. You ready to get into it?
Can't wait.
Let's go now. Colorado State at Colorado.
Game
What
day.
is what is game day doing here, by the way?
They're hitching. So Fox had first 2 weeks. The brilliance of Fox had the first 2 weeks with Colorado and Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders. And now ESPN wants to hitch their tail to that. And let me tell you, it's smart. This game, it's an interesting game. It was a game that we circled early in the season or preseason. That was like, okay, this is an interesting game in terms of like what is Colorado actually going to be? What is their depth going to look like after two, seemingly supposed to be physical games against Nebraska in week 2, and TCU was supposed to be physical in week 1. And yes, Shador Sanders has taken hits. Yes, they've played a lot of snaps and a lot of football, but it Colorado looks pretty damn good, and they're honestly getting better as the game goes on, which I know was something I was worried about with the lack of depth, especially with their stars having to play, a lot of snaps. But yeah, obviously the atmosphere will be fantastic. Colorado, how do they handle the pressure? Now they're minus 23 and a half. Now they're the ones that everyone's looking at to go in and dominate. And if they don't dominate, people are going to be upset. And that has to be the message that Deion Sanders sends to his team. And I'm sure he will, a master motivator that he is. They have to continue to buy and continue to grind out. This should be 3-0. This should be stay healthy and to show explosive offensively. I'm sure they'll get Shador Sanders, his touches and his stats, keep him in the Heisman race. But yeah, I mean, to me, this is about Colorado. And does Colorado show up? And how do they show up? And if they do, it's going to be a blowout. And 23 and a half is probably about right. But that's a pretty damn high line for Colorado to be power rated above Colorado State. That's a lot.
Yeah,
What say you?
so many things about this game have changed since the start of the season. It opened this season, Colorado minus 4.5. What? And now we're at 23 and a half? That's crazy. I also anticipated this game going into the game. Colorado State would be going into it with Clay Millen at quarterback. Not the case. Not the case. Braden Fowler Nicholasy, however you want to pronounce that. I had never heard about this kid until this past week. Well, I guess week 1 when he got in against Washington State, and he actually did pretty dang well. So, look, I mean, they like him over there. I say, go play him, you know? And Jay, gosh, coach's name. loves to throw the ball. He's not going to be running the ball, right? So the quarterback is such a huge, gigantic factor in this offense, right? Guys like Torrey Horton, right? He might get
We
his this
love
game.
him.
We love
We
him. We
love
love him.
him.
I think we're going to see that matchup with him and Travis Hunter. I don't think people are talking about enough. That's going to be that's going to be a duel. That's going to be a duel. And
That's the best wide receiver that Colorado's faced this year, or so far. Obviously, when they get into Pac-12 play with USC and all the talent they have, Oregon, Troy Franklin, they'll get into a elite competition as well. But Troy Horton is right up there. He's a damn good receiver. And Justice Ross Simmons had 120 yards against Washington State, a defense that I'm pretty high on in terms of the front four, the pass rush there. But that was also a team that you saw at times really limit Wisconsin's passing game. So Colorado State, they put up numbers in week one, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Look, Jay Norvell, Colorado State, especially after everything that's going on, the fact that game day is going to be there. Gosh, when was the last time that Colorado State, those players got to go somewhere and it was game day? Not according to my calculations, ever, right? These boys are going to be fired up, right? We know Deion's going to fire up his boys too. So, and Shedeur Sanders, I mean, he might throw for another 300, 400, 500 yards today, to increase his run at the Heisman candidacy. So what are you picking today? Colorado minus 23.5, Colorado State plus 23.5. Who are you picking to win? Who are you picking to cover?
Obviously, I guess I don't want to take the easy way out, but I'm going to go Colorado to cover. Or I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go Colorado to win, but Colorado State to cover that plus 23.5 one. I think that's too many points. Like you said, it's a rivalry game. And Colorado State somehow had a bye in week 2. Their bye was week 2. So they had a whole week to listen about how great Colorado is, how they have no chance, how Colorado's going to walk in there into their home stadium and just dominate. But I think Colorado State's a very interesting team. I think they really are. They can be explosive on offense, like we talked about. Obviously, Colorado's offense will get theirs. You can't stop that. But in terms of covering a game, Colorado State can put up points, and I think they will. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. And like you said, in an era of NIL, not that you need any more motivation, but you want to talk about like having a lot of eyes on you. That's going to be this game. I mean, Nebraska, Colorado was almost more watched than Texas, Alabama in a primetime slot. Okay, this will be, ESPN. I don't even know what time is this game? It's a 9 p.m. game. Damn, they did not do them any favors. But that's Central Time, by the way. So 7 o'clock local time there, or is it 8 o'clock? The Mountain Time. Regardless, give me Colorado State the points. Colorado to win.
Obviously, I'm taking Colorado to win. It's not a very sharp pick, right? But I'll take Colorado and the points to cover this one. And the reason being is because I think, look, Washington State showed us that their secondary is exploitable. I think Colorado's receivers are better. I think Shedeur Sanders is as good, if not a better quarterback than Cam Ward in a lot of ways. I also think that Colorado's weakness is their defensive line. And I don't think Colorado State's going to take advantage of that running the ball, right? We saw the only kind of offense that Nebraska was able to have at all in the first half of that game was in the ground game. And, they still did a good job, Colorado, of, kind of bending, not breaking, forcing or not forcing Jeff Sims to make mistakes, right? But I think Colorado State's going to try to go to the air, and they're going to be attacking something that is Colorado's strong suit of their team on the defensively. I think their secondary is pretty good. So I don't know. This is going to be Braden Fowler's first start. So, look, I just don't know. I think there's just a lot more. I know what I'm getting out of Colorado, I think, which is surprising to say that week 2. And Colorado, I get that they're coming off the bye, but going on the road, game day, it's going to be a rowdy environment. When was the last time Colorado State went to Colorado and it was as rowdy as it is going to be there this Saturday? Never. Right? Never. So give me Colorado and give me the points.
Yeah, it's fair.
Missouri at Kansas State. 5-point line. Uh, Gosh, if you'd asked me a couple weeks ago, I would have, without hesitation, taken Missouri and put the points. But now it's not so easy right now. Missouri has not looked good in these last two games at all, and Kansas State has looked really good. And Kansas State is at home, right? Well, what do you think about this game?
Well, first of all, if you are someone that likes to do things on Saturday morning and or Saturday early afternoon, right, 11 o'clock. This game's 11 o'clock kickoff. There are a number of other 11 o'clock kickoff games, which we'll get into later. Um, do not sleep in today. If you're a college kid that's going to be hungover, do not sleep in on Saturday. Do not do anything. Like the 11 o'clock window is prime this week. It's going to be awesome. Come 1:30, 2 o'clock, it's the fourth quarters are going to be great in some of these games. But to be honest, I don't think this is the game that's going to be a 4-quarter game. I'm going to take Kansas State in the points. I really, really like this Kansas State team and what they showed me last week against Troy. I think Khalid Duke can be a difference maker. He's got 3 sacks already. I talked about him in our Big 12 preview with Kansas State. I think he could really take over this game and give Brady Cook a lot of fits on an offensive line. That's definitely the question mark on this offense. Obviously, Luther Burden will get his. But other than him, is someone going to step up? Is it Theo Wees the transfer? Is it Mekhi Miller? Is it the young guy? Last year, Brady Cook, maybe not his fault entirely, was not good in this game. And their defense got ran all over. It was actually Adrian Martinez in this game, and obviously Deuce Vaughn did his thing. But yeah, last year Kansas State kind of demolished them. Yes, it was at home for Kansas State. So this year it's going to be going to Missouri, if I'm correct. Yeah, it feels like a trap game, but I 5 I think is a little bit too low. I think it could get out of hand, and Missouri maybe gets the score late to cut it to single digits. But yeah, I'm impressed with Kansas State so far.
Yeah. Oh, so I didn't realize that Kansas State was going to Missouri. That's on me.
No worries.
Okay, because I was so confused why this line was the way it was. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, that just smells like an absolute trap because Kansas State should be favored by a lot more. I was like, what? All right, well, that's on me. But that being said, I'm still gonna take Kansas State in the points for every
Yeah.
reason that you said. I still don't trust Brady Cook at all. Um, Look, this might be a game. This might be a game where we see Jeff Garcia for the first time.
Wow. I hope not for Brady Cook's sake, obviously.
Or Brady Cook's the captain,
Captain.
but the captain. But come on, I mean, they're just such a bad. Will Howard looks unbelievable right now. They're able to run the ball. They're balanced on offense. They have a great offensive line. The defenses look good. In Missouri, I mean, they've had some tight ones with some guys with some teams that are just not all that. Middle Tennessee, yikes.
Well, I mean, that got close late. Like that got close. It was a 13. Well, I guess it was a 1 possession game going into the fourth quarter, but they quickly took the lead. But yeah, to be only win by 4 against Mid Tennessee State, and yes, they're a fine team in the group of 5 in the CUSA there, but yeah, that can't happen. That's not impressive at all.
Well, I don't think
At
they looked
home.
all that impressive against South Dakota either. So I think this is a team that's dropped on a lot of people's power ratings, which is thank you for clarifying that this was. I guess when I made this, I think I just wrote it wrong. I must have just wrote it wrong, and then I was like, why is this -5? But yeah, I'll still take the points. Jeez, good thing I didn't waste some money on that. I was thinking about it because, but then I was like, oh, it's such a trap game, like too good to be true. But I mean, I still on the road, but for our picks purposes, I'll take Kansas State to win and Kansas State points.
Yeah, I will say real quick about Kansas State. Last year we saw them early in the season for sure, and to most of the extent, most of the year they did rely on that running game, right, with Deuce Vaughn and Giddens behind him this year. You got Trayshawn Ward transferring, and DJ Giddens has really stepped up as well. The one thing Missouri does pretty well, and they've done so far, is stop the run. I mean, we like their defense for the most part. I mean, we're still waiting on an offense to step up. That's why I do think they're not going to be able to cover, because I don't think their offense is good enough. And I think Kansas State's got some players on defense, especially Khalid Duke. That's a name to watch. If you don't watch Kansas State football, if you're not familiar with him and you're a Missouri fan, get familiar with him, because unfortunately you're going to be hearing his name called a good amount this game here. And in Missouri, I'm a fan of feeding your best player on offense. Luther Burden is elite. I think we both know. We've known him since high school. He's a stud, obviously, former 5-star guy. And they put him in the slot this year, so he's got a little bit more flexibility and definitely better matchups for him. But like I talked about, who's next? Who can help Brady Cook? He needs the help if this offense is gonna be able to put up points and stay in this game for Kansas State.
LSU going to Starkville, take on Mississippi State. The line currently, actually, I know it's a plus 10 on the graphic because this was made yesterday, but in a lot of places it's 9.5. Not sure you can get any 10s out there, but for the purpose of this exercise, 10 will be our line. All right, for the pick of picking who's winning and picking who's covering. This is a really interesting game because look, I went back and I watched. I'd mentioned I watched again Mississippi State versus Arizona, and then I kind of realized that it wasn't necessarily like. I think that game was close because I just don't think they're using Will Rogers to push the field. I mean, which they didn't really do with Mike Leach, right? But I thought things would like change a little bit. I don't think they really have. And I think LSU, for instance, we've seen vulnerabilities with their secondary, and they have a really good linebacking core. So if you're not throwing the ball down the field, right, and you're letting linebackers get involved in the passing game, I think that's pretty dangerous. Plus Mason Smith back? Question mark? Maybe not 100% healthy, but come on. I mean, that's going to be a difference maker. I mean, we saw Mekhi Wingo just absolutely shred Florida State in the first half. That's going to be a real problem for Mississippi State for sure. But I don't know, man. Mississippi State's really, really talented on the defensive line as well. So, and LSU struggled against a talented defensive line against Florida State. So, on the other hand, can Mississippi State cause problems with to Jalen Daniels? Can they force his hand a little? Can they make him make mistakes? So, I don't know. What do you think?
I've been going back and forth on this one. The thing is neither of these teams have I been really impressed with. I think obviously Mississippi State's 2-0 and at home. Can they continue to run the ball effectively, like you said? I don't know. I mean, you'd hope. LSU, you could figure out your defense line. Hopefully Mason Smith comes back. Obviously Mekhi Wingo. What are they doing with Harold Perkins? Like, can they figure out what to do with him? And is he going to break out this game? Is Matt House finally going to unleash him this year? And if they let Will Rogers start cooking, even though I know Mississippi State's going to try to run the ball, if he starts cooking and he gets hot, I mean, we've seen him do things to a lot of good SEC defenses in his career there at Mississippi State. And then LSU, do you come out flat like you did in the second half against Florida State? You cannot let Starkville and Mississippi State, feel pretty good in that first half. You want to get this game as out of hand as early as possible. Also, in terms of just your play style on offense, Jaden Daniels is not meant to come from behind. He's really not. And yes, they've got playmakers at wide receiver, but they're better ahead of the chains and better ahead of the score for sure. And then also that O-line, it's got to hold up better than it did at times against Florida State for sure. And we like some Mississippi State defensive line too. They always do good there, and they could cause havoc. Obviously, at the end of the day, I'm gonna go LSU to win, and I'm gonna go LSU to cover. I think they're going to be pretty pissed off about what happened a couple weeks ago. I think Brian Kelly will have them go on, and I trust their coaching staff to fix some things that maybe they kind of came out flat against in the second half and got exposed for. And they're going to try to limit exactly how much their own secondary can hurt them and be a weakness and try to, like, I guess, hide it as much as they can.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Unfortunately, when I first looked at this, my first instinct was to take Mississippi State in the points at home. Right. I mean, we saw this game last year, and Mississippi State kept it close until the fourth quarter, pretty much. And at one point, it was like, wow, this team can win this game on the road. But I don't know if we meet LSU in the points, I think you're right. The turnover luck with Arizona is like maybe they shouldn't have won that game. They can't rely on that with LSU necessarily. I don't know that they're going to be able to run the ball as effectively as they were able to against Arizona in week 1 as well. So yeah, and if they're
Because
not gonna choose to push the ball down the field either, then I can't say that they're gonna be utilizing their talent, and I can't say that they have the best chance. They're not giving themselves the best chance to win if they do that.
that was going to be my question: is can Mississippi State expose the defense backs for LSU? Florida State's obviously super talented, and Keon Coleman and what's a Wilson or fuck, who's the
Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Wilson? Yeah, yeah. And those two are obviously going to be matching nightmares for everybody to go against, but they exposed a pretty poor and smaller as LSU secondary. I don't know if I believe in this staff to do that yet with Will Rogers, which is crazy because you have he's talented, and I like Griffin. He's a smaller guy, but
They're finally using him in the slot. I mean,
which is
Mississippi
nice
State
for
fans are
sure.
happy about that. Sure.
Which is nice. But other than that, don't see a ton of size out there for their production. I mean, Justin Robertson's 6'4", but he's not Keon Coleman. Like, it's not even close. So that's why I think LSU is going to be able to hide their flaw. And that's the key to the game, I think, for Mississippi State. If you try to run the ball, obviously, but you're going to have to make plays through the air. And can they do it?
Yeah, I think this could be a mistake though on our parts. I think there's a
For
chance
sure.
Mississippi wins this game straight up, 100%.
Yeah. Oh,
So
absolutely.
there's a good chance that we're both making a gigantic mistake here. But
Well, that's the SEC West for you this year. I mean, any team is beatable. Like we the more I think about Alabama, and this is not an Alabama segment, but in general, like any team can run the table in this game. This they can win every game, right? And that's why you see people are like, oh, it's single digits for LSU. That's interesting. A team that's SEC championship contender, a guy that people think playoff contender. No, this is a pretty even division, and it's always hard to go on the road in the SEC, as you know.
Penn State going to Champaign, Illinois. A game that I was heavily anticipating at the beginning of the season for sure. I mean, we have the line on our graphic at 15. It's down to like 14 and a half. A lot of places, 14 even. But for the sake of our show, we're going to play it like it's at 15. Right.
Which makes a difference, obviously, versus 14.
Yeah. I think, yeah, if I was to update, I think I would put it at 14 and a half because that's what it is at most places, I think. But yeah, I mean, this is very interesting. The Illinois defense, gosh, I mean, feels like losing Ryan Walters is a big deal. Feels like losing that secondary has been a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's more of it. They hired from within, and obviously Ryan Walters, very smart dude. Obviously, credit a lot of the success last year to him. But they hired from within. I trust Bielema. He's always had good defenses there, and wherever he's been. But it's the talent and the secondary and the experience is tough, 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 tough.
Sorry, hold on.
Hey, we good. I'll talk a little bit about
Yeah, sorry. I was
Penn
just
State's.
gonna trying to pull up some stuff on. All right, we're good. Yep. Sorry about that.
No, you good. To be honest, I think
You still see the
I
screen?
yeah, we're all good. We're all good.
All right, sweet, sweet.
I've been high on Penn State. Obviously, we took their over. That was almost a double play for me because I think they're going to dominate this year. I think in this game, as they should. Like you said, I was a little bit more worried coming into the year because of what I thought Illinois was going to be defensively and even offensively with Luke Altmaier coming in, some talent, Isaiah Williams wide there. But I think Penn State's going to really control this game. They're going to do whatever they want to do. Kay Allen is a guy that Nick Singleton gets all the glory, but Kay Allen's a really good runner. Both those guys will be able to make plays this year. Can they control this game? I think they will. If they can't, though, then you see the test on Drew Allar, right? With a pretty talented front. Although Keith Randolph, I think, got hurt a little bit at the end of the Kansas game. Not quite sure what his status will be. Hopefully, he's back and healthy for their sake. But Kendra Lambert Smith has really emerged as a damn good wide receiver. They got some talent in the tight end position. Obviously, they got some other receivers behind him. Dante Cephas, namely, a guy that I've been super high on, waiting for him to break out. But I think it's a good test for Penn State. I think they should dominate, though. I think this should really be. I want to see them come out and just impose their will all game, offensively and defensively. Even though they're going on the road to Illinois, it's a hard place to play. Just ask Michigan last year. Should have lost that game, but Penn State, yeah, give me Penn State and the points.
I'll take Penn State to win for sure, but I'll actually take Illinois in the points. Look, the defense has not been what they've wanted it to be, but they've faced two incredibly mobile quarterbacks, right? That have really exposed their linebackers, and some of their defensive front, like in terms of like the speed there, right? Although Gabe Hawkes, I think, is a very good athlete, but I do think Penn State runs the ball differently than Kansas does, right? Kansas has a very interesting run scheme, a lot of misdirection, a lot of linemen flying up to linebackers, right? That causes your defensive lineman to kind of like over pursue, right? Devin Neal hitting holes hard. A lot of read option, some triple option even in there, right? If you really want to get into it. But I do think this is just a different matchup. I think it's big boys versus big boys. And I think in the first half, I think it's going to be pretty close. I think in the second half, Penn State pulls away because I think some of those guys on the defensive line for Illinois are going to run out of gas. Kind of like what LSU did when they ran out of gas against FSU. Kai Wingo can only play so many snaps, right? I do think Johnny Newton, Keith Richards, Gabe Hawkes, I think those guys can actually match up with some of these big boys on Penn State's offensive line. So I think Penn State wins, and I think Drew Allar will look good. I think he will. I just don't think Penn State's going to be able to run the ball the way that they think they're going to be able to run the ball. So, yeah, give me Penn State to win, Illinois to cover. If you're going to give me 2 touchdowns, more than 2 touchdowns, I'll take that at home.
If you're looking for a path to victory, if you're an Illinois fan, and how can we upset Penn State? You have to start 10 times better than you did against Kansas. Obviously that game was out of hand right away. With how Kansas jumped on you. You also got to establish the run with your running backs. I know Luke Altmaier, has made some plays with his legs. Obviously, had the long touchdown against Kansas, but you got to give him a break, I think. And we've been impressed with him. I don't blame the Kansas game on him at all. I know he threw some picks, whatever, but I think he's played pretty darn well, all things considered. But you got to get Isaiah Williams involved. You got to get Pat Bryant, Casey Williams, and then obviously Reggie Love out of the backfield as well. But yeah, I just think Penn State's so talented everywhere. I think there's no holes on this team. I think they're really going to be able to kind of do whatever they want when they want. But obviously, if you jump on him early, you get out there, you put Drew Allar in positions he's not used to being in. That who knows, right? Obviously, it's college football; anything can happen. But yeah, give me Penn State in the points.
Yeah, I think if there was a weakness of Penn State's defense, I think it would be their interior defensive line. So I think Illinois, like when they decide that they want to run the ball, they need to stick with it. I think 100%.
Yeah, but I love Zane Durant though as a young guy, sophomore. We talked about him in our breakdown. He's only 280 though, so he's listed as 280. So
that's what I'm saying.
there's some for sure some size concerns there. But their linebackers are so damn good. Curtis Jacobs, Abdul Carter, Kobe King. Kobe King's a Why does ESPN have him listed as a linebacker? Isn't he that he's a cornerback, right? Or does he play
Uh,
slot for him now? Like what? Oh, Kalen King. I'm sorry, his brother. It must be his
no.
brother, Kobe King. I
Mhm.
totally misread that. My bad. Regardless, though, Penn State. I see what you're saying, obviously, but I'm not quite as concerned for Penn State on that front. Because also we haven't seen Illinois been able to do that, and if they get into a negative game script for them, then they're gonna be struggling.
Let's talk about Minnesota traveling to Chapel Hill. Face off with Drake May, North Carolina. The line is UNC minus 7.5. You're the Minnesota guy. I'll let you take over.
I'll be honest, I'm very worried about this game, and it's not because I don't think we can win. I'm not worried about going on the road, and maybe I should be, but I just think Drake May can just take over this game against us. And to be honest, Minnesota, and credit to Joe Rossi, and I'll never say another bad word about Joe Rossi in my life. The thing is, he's a defensive coordinator for Minnesota, by the way. The only thing that you could knock him for is they just don't see many elite quarterbacks ever. I mean, the last one we saw was CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's redshirt freshman year, his first start ever. And they had receivers running wide open. Now, obviously, it was North Carolina does not have the talent on the perimeter to take advantage of that, which is where I think Minnesota's got their chance because the strength of their defense, I believe, is in the secondary. Tyler Nubin and Justin Wally are two all-conference caliber players. They do get Coney Lindenberg back at linebacker, which is massive for them. They've really missed him, having some youth and inexperience there up the middle of their defense. And obviously, no Des Walker has hurt UNC, but the emergence of Omer and Hampton for them, right? The running back for North Carolina was really eye opening for me. And again, that's going back. If you get Drake May a rushing attack, it's going to be really, really hard to get stops, especially on third and short, where he can beat you with his legs and with his arm, obviously. And then also, which offense shows up for Minnesota? Is it the one against Nebraska that had to pass the ball 44 times because they couldn't run the ball at all? Or is the one against Eastern Michigan that could run the ball in between the 20s as soon as they get in the red zone? They couldn't figure it out. How much can you really get fixed on the O-line and in your offensive, more so continuity and consistency in 1 week or 2 weeks, whatever? I don't know. I was high in Minnesota. I think I took their over. Well, it was back when 6.5, 7.5 is tough with the schedule, obviously. I'm higher than anybody on anything Calic Man. I think he's really, really damn good. He's a gamer. I think he's good enough to go not quite toe to toe with Drake May, but he's damn good to put up hella points in this game. But I'm gonna lean with UNC and the points here. I think this could get ugly in Chapel Hill, unfortunately for Minnesota.
I am gonna go ahead and take UNC to win, but I'll take Minnesota cover. And
Make me feel a little bit better about him as a Minnesota fan. Make me feel a little bit better.
look, App State ran the ball. They ran the ball. I think both teams are going to try to run the ball on each other, right? So if there's any hope for Minnesota, right, it's the clock runs fast, right? Both teams are trying to run the ball. Your variability in the game decreases, right? So you get a chance. All of a
Helps
sudden it's a
us.
one possession game, right? And Ethan Kaliakmanis has a chance to go down and potentially tie the game or win it, right? I'm hoping that's what happens. Well, because I took him to cover, and I'm sure you're hoping that happens because you're a big Gopher guy. But
Yeah.
so I do think they're just trying to figure out the balance, right? Like there's a kind of balance that you need on offense, right? If you have wide receivers like Minnesota does, which we saw late against Nebraska, we saw what Daniel Jackson's capable of.
We do. Do not let the unknown and he has 110 yards on the year, whatever, one touchdown. He's a good player and UNC's they can get exposed, I think, on the back end. Sorry, not to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
do not be surprised if Minnesota wide receivers are making plays. That's a really slept on group in terms of the national media.
right. So I think it is very possible that this is a one possession game when it boils down to it. There's a chance that Drake May takes over, but I also think that they haven't really opened it up for him yet. So, which is also kind of scary too, because it's like, well, here's the thing: once you have opened it up for him in a game where you're in a dogfight with Appalachian State,
Either that or against South Carolina. Now, I think the staff kind of knew that they. I
they're
bet
gonna
they might have.
murder.
Yeah, that they just couldn't block South Carolina. Now, our offensive line is better than South Carolina's offensive line, but in pass pro, I don't know how much. I mean, can't come on. Is it Kamon Rucker, right? The edge guy for North Carolina is could take advantage of some bad pass protection, specifically on that right side. If you see them right lining up on the left side of the defense, right against the right tackle, right guard, with some stunting and different things that they can do and get him isolated on a guy like Quinn Carroll, it's not quite as quick in pass pro as he is physical and run blocking. It can do some damage. I think Ethan has played well under pressure, but obviously it's not where you want to live as if you're a quarterback. I'll say Lansley here. We talked about Omarion Hampton stepping up, but Darius Taylor, I had to have felt good to see him go for what was like 190 some yards against Eastern Michigan last week as a true freshman guy. I mean,
Is
he
Bryce
had
Williams healthy?
who cares? I hope not. I'm
That's
sorry.
why I know, but like I'm just saying, like if he's healthy, is he gonna steal carries from this other talent in the background field? You know,
Now, I do think Sean Tyler, who is technically the starting running back for him. Now, he's not quite the physical body to carry the load in a game. You want him more in that 12 to 16 touches range where he can just, scamper and go 70 yards for a touchdown. But he's had some fumble problems to start the year. And I know the ball is the program for PJ Flex Squad up there in Minneapolis. He hates that more than anything. Anyone that coughs up the ball. So that's why we saw a bunch of Darius Taylor, and he looked really, really good, really physical. Caught the ball in the backfield. Obviously, if you don't follow recruiting that well, he was a highly touted guy out of Michigan. He was the gem of Minnesota's recruiting class, and it's great to see him come in right away and make a difference. Because he could just as easily be doing that for Michigan or Notre Dame. Instead, he's doing it for Minnesota. But yeah, I hope you're right. Well, I hope you're wrong in the fact that UNC wins. But I think this North Carolina team, I've just been impressed with them, and I don't slight them for losing in a close game against App State. I really don't. And we'll see how they show up. A week after that, 2 weeks after, a tough game against their rival South Carolina, and then obviously OT against another rival in App State. Can you get up a third straight week and play a team at Minnesota that's going to be hungry? That's going to want to come in and win this game.
Washington at Michigan State. Wow, plus 16.5 is the line. If you were following the show in the summer, you got a very, very smelly. Now, you could call me unintelligent if you want, taking a line for a game months in advance. But yeah, I took Washington minus 11 when we saw that line there. Right? So call me whatever you want to call me. Just know that I got Washington minus 11 in this game. But I will say, Noah Kim, for how terrible he was in the spring game, and for how terrible he was in the first half of his first game, right? He's been better since then. I think his average depth of target, he's like top 10 in the country right now. And so he's pushing the ball down the field without Keon Coleman and Jaden Reed. So I'm going to give him some credit where credit's due there, but we don't really know what Michigan State is. They have not played particularly good teams. In fact, I guess Washington, you could say the same thing about.
Well,
Right?
Boise State, I mean, that was impressive what they did to them. Not
Yes.
now is Boise State, like the Calman Boise State teams? No, obviously not.
Kellen Moore.
But
Kellen Moore.
I'm so sorry.
It's
Kellen
all
Moore
good.
deserves better than that. College football legend.
Stud. So yeah, if I'm just gonna go ahead straight up, tell you what I think, what I'm gonna take. It's gonna sound crazy because I have Washington -11. But I'm gonna take Washington to win, and I'm actually gonna take Michigan State to cover this game. Believe it or not. I don't know. I think Noah Kim is a better passer than Taylon Green. I love Taylon Green. Love him. I love him. He's only a true sophomore. He still has to develop a little bit. Um, and I do think Michigan State's been able to run the ball a little bit better, which we haven't really seen from them at all, which is kind of nice. Uh,
Since Kenneth Walker was there.
yeah, since Kenneth Walker's there. So I think I kind of underestimated this team. If you watched their preview, I'm sure you were upset about the things that I said about Michigan State. And I know that there's stuff going on with that coaching staff right now. Can't talk about Michigan State without bringing up, you know, y'all's head coach, who I don't need to name, and some of the things he's being accused of. Of course, when more information comes out, we can talk about that a little bit more. But right now, we don't know enough about it. But I'll say, I don't know, man. Like it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on in the coaching staff, but we'll see how this locker room responds. We'll see how this locker room responds. So I'm really, really excited for this game. Actually, I'm really, really excited. I can't wait to see some Power Five action
I
against two
hope you
teams
have
that are going to be.
Peacock.
Well, yeah, I hope you have Peacock,
Which,
but
God damn it, Big Ten. Make me pay
yeah,
for another subscription.
I know. What's funny though is like people are looking at it like it's the Pac-12's fault, but in this case, it's actually the Big Ten's fault. Which is
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for blaming the administration of the Pac-12 whenever you get a chance to, but this is actually on the media rights deal with Peacock and NBC in the Big Ten.
yeah, I'll be watching this game for sure. So I can't wait. So what are you taking? I think I know what you're taking.
Well, real quick, I want to reiterate your point about the head coaching situation and the scandal that's being alleged there, and the suspension that took place. Hopefully, it's obviously a very serious allegation. Hopefully, it gets treated, with the respect it deserves. Obviously, as for college football, though, because this is a college football show, I think Washington will blow out Michigan State. I think they will blow them out. The only reason I'm not taking the over in this game is because I don't think Michigan State. I think there's a real scenario where Washington puts up 55 points, but it's 55-0, and Michigan State, the line's at 57.5. So I don't know. I just think Washington has the guns right now. They're pretty healthy defensively. The only thing that's not quite clicking for them, which I was hoping, is the defensive line in terms of sack production. Now I get it, sacks aren't everything in this, but they only have 3 sacks through the year. 1.5 in the game is I'd like to see them get a little bit more. Obviously, against Michigan State. Michigan State, speaking of sacks, though, they've got 10 sacks. That's their key to victory here, is to get pressure on Michael Penix and stop the run. Obviously, what Washington is with their backup running back. Will Nixon is the guy there. I believe Daniel Nagata is also there. But they're gonna miss. I mean, it's Michael Penix show, right? Obviously, he's a stud. He's top 3 passer, I think, in the country already. We knew that coming in. He's got elite weapons, pretty good tackles, and an O-line starter wise. I don't care that this line moved crazy. I think it's still too low. Shout out you for getting that line. That was crazy. We talked about that, back in the summer, because we knew it was going to move. I mean, that was
You
way too
had
low,
to
and
know.
ahead of, and that was even before all the stuff came out. But wow,
And the thing is, too, is like this line moved, and Michigan State still looked good in their first 2 games. So it's like,
I
well,
wouldn't say they looked.
the first half of the first game, they did not look good.
Yeah,
I think the rest of the way they've done fine.
which is also like nobody in week 1 is a finished product at all. So and I give them credit for improving, obviously. but I think Washington's a wagon. I think they're really, really good. What they're ranked like eighth. Is that too low? Not for right now, but in terms of like actually like they could end up the season, I think, higher than that. I think they got that much potential. And it starts with blowing out Michigan State, going on the road and getting a victory there. And I think they will.
Tennessee at Florida. To be honest, I don't know what the exact line of this game is. It keeps bouncing around. Is it 7, 6.5, 6, 6.5? I don't know exactly where it's at, but for the purpose of this show, we're gonna act like it's at 6. Because also to you viewers, I don't know when you guys are gonna be watching this. So for all I know, it's at 6.5. For all I know, it's at 5.5 when you guys are watching this. But yeah, let's talk about Tennessee, Florida. This is a gigantic game. It blows my mind that people are not talking about this game at all. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. I mean, this can go. I think this can go so many different ways. I think this goes so many different ways because I don't think either team has looked particularly awesome these first 2 weeks. I don't think either team has. So, what are you going with?
I've been back and forth on the game. Obviously, when I can't figure it out, I'm just gonna take the better team in it. I'm gonna go Tennessee. Obviously, I think they're the better team than Florida. I think the upside for Tennessee is this could get ugly. I don't think Mertz, who's actually played pretty okay for Florida, he hasn't been the problem there. I think Tennessee has, if they decide to click or not decide, if they do click with Joe Milton and the talented receivers and on that team, they could blow out Florida, obviously. And Florida has the athletes for sure to hang with them, but I think Tennessee has the upside to blow them out. Well, that's why I'm taking Tennessee in the points here, -6. But again, I can see this going either way. I can see Florida getting a win, and that would be massive for Billy Napier and his momentum on the recruiting trail, and then finally putting it on the field and getting a marquee win at home against top 10 team, or close to top 10, I guess top 11. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be I just can't put my faith in Florida to cover after watching them. I don't see it. And obviously Tennessee hasn't looked great either, like we talked about. But I think Joe Milton starts to get a little bit better as the year goes on and eventually starts clicking.
I'm fading you hard.
Again. Wow.
Like hard. Like
No,
absolute
not
fade-a-tron. I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it. I'm taking Florida to cover. And I'm taking them to win. I'm taking them to win straight up. I get it that it was McNeese State. Dude, I think Utah's defense is just that good, right? I think Graham Mertz has looked fine. Look, those wide receivers struggled against Utah, of course, but another week under their belts. Okay. I think they're gonna run the ball, and I think they're gonna do it effectively. They got 2 running backs that are averaging over 6 yards a carry. All right. Joe Milton has not looked good.
And they didn't run the ball well against Utah either. So
Yeah, and they didn't run the ball. Yeah, exactly. And Joe Milton, I've not been impressed. I've not been impressed at all. I get their defense has only let up 13 points in these first couple games, but like, come on. Like, we know who you really played. We know who you really played. Right. And I'll give you this. Virginia's running backs, when they ran the ball with running backs, averaged over 5.5 yards a carry. That happened.
they just
Now, granted,
they got down in that after that again the second half they just stopped running the ball, or they couldn't really afford to run the ball because they were down so much.
yeah. Now, if you look at the total stats of that game, right, because of Tony Muskett coming in there and getting sacked up a bajillion times. I shouldn't say bajillion times. It was quite a few times though. Well, obviously Florida's offense. This is gonna be the best offensive line that Tennessee's faced so far, for sure. Obviously, because it's just the best team that they've played so far. Defensively, I still have questions. For sure. Can Tennessee figure it out? And also, look, in neither game have they gotten off to a hot start at all, right? And what happens when Joe Milton goes down in a game? I think he starts to try to do too much. I think he starts to do too much. So I think as long as Graham Mertz takes care of the football, which he has done up to this point, for the most part, he has taken care of the football. Give me Florida. Give me the points. Give me them to win. Let's go.
Wow. To be honest, I hope you're right because I was a guy that took the Tennessee under. And it does worry me right now that we've predicted 6 or 7 games right now, and I've taken the favorite in all of them. And I told you at the beginning of the show, this is not a week to sleep on. This is not a week where favorites are going to win all the time. And now I think in these particular games, I believe in my picks. I believe in them, obviously, but this game specifically, I have no feel in terms of I just had to make decisions. So I'm going to take Tennessee. But yeah, I think you're right for all the reasons you just said. And don't forget that it's in a swamp too. Like,
yes,
this is not an easy place to play at all. And I think Florida will be pumped up, and the fans will be. Obviously, I still think Tennessee has the talent to silence that crowd pretty quickly. But again, like you said, it's going to be a really good game for Joe Milton. He had a ton of hype coming into the year. The receiver core, obviously Tennessee as a whole, very highly power rated and rate rankings in the ACC or in the AP poll. I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean,
yeah. Answer me though, why are they not pushing the ball down the field? Like, can the receivers not get separation? It's not like you've played any good
it doesn't
secondaries.
matter if they have separation. Like, it shouldn't matter. Now, obviously, no Jalen Hyatt, very good deep threat,
Brew
but
McCoy, Squirrel White, Deontay Thornton. These are all
they,
incredibly good, proven receivers.
yeah, and I'll say this, like, with Josh Heupel's scheme, it shouldn't really matter like about like the separation is through the scheme now, and obviously not to take anything away from Hyatt and Tillman and these wide receivers in these Tennessee offenses, but it's it should be there obviously, and Florida's got some talent obviously, but yeah, I just can't take it. I can't buy into Graham Mertz getting a big time win. I just haven't seen it yet. I mean, I hope he proves me wrong. I really do. But I'm going to go Tennessee in the points.
Let's talk about BYU. How about you going to Fayetteville, Arkansas, playing Razorback Stadium? That place is going to be rocking. That place is going to be rocking. Now, these are two what feels like very different teams from last year. Very different teams. New quarterback for BYU, Keaton Slovis is in there. Look, both of these teams, a lot of their bread and butter in recent years has been running the football. Neither team has done that well up until this point. In fact, Arkansas, Raheem Sanders is out again for the second straight week. Now they're hoping he's back for the LSU game, but he's not back this game, right? And when your offensive line is going to be absolutely piss poor the way it has been these last 2 weeks, come on, Arkansas fans, we know, all right. Elite running backs can kind of compensate for that, right? A little bit. They have a very talented backfield, but AJ Green is not as talented as our boy Rocket Sanders. So I'm very, very interested to see how this game turns out. We have the graphic at +10, right? This line has dropped significantly to +8 in some places, +8.5. But for the sake of the show, we'll pick it like it is at 10. All right. And gosh, what's going on here? Both teams can't run the ball. So what do they do? What do they do? What do you think?
Yeah, it's obviously going to rely on KJ Jefferson being the best player in this game, like I think he is. It's going to be up to him to make plays. And this game, I can't get a feel on. Again, it's similar to Tennessee Florida game in terms of picking a spread. I'm obviously going to take Arkansas to win. I do think losing Sanders hurts for sure. And Arkansas didn't look fantastic against Kent State. And I love Kenny Burns more than most people. Obviously, a new head coach there for Kent State. This is not a good roster at Kent State. It's really not. And KJ Jefferson did some nice things, obviously, but he only has to throw the ball 19 times. I think he'll have to throw a little bit more against BYU, which I don't think is something that they want. Obviously, he's a good player for sure, and they do have some talent there, out wide. But yeah, I don't believe in BYU enough to go into Arkansas and get a win and to even cover. So that's why I'm going to take Arkansas and the points.
Wow.
Again, another favorite. I hate doing it. I hate doing it.
Another favorite. Well, I think the winner of this game is just the team that's more talented. It's Arkansas. I think the winner of this game has a guy that can make plays, which is Arkansas. But I do think this BYU defense it's been okay. The linebackers have looked pretty good. Some surprises there as well. A little more production than they thought that they were going to get there, I think. And I'm going to take BYU to cover plus 10. Because you're giving it to me at 10. If we were doing this at 8.5, I don't think I would have a much tougher time taking BYU plus 8.5 than I would taking BYU plus 10. Granted, these are not games that we're putting money on. These are just picks. All right, for following the show, hopefully you know that. But yeah, give me Arkansas to win. Give me BYU if you're going to give me 10 points. I think this is a lower scoring game. The over-under win totals, or sorry, not win total. The over-under for this game is 47.5. So it's not going to be a high scoring game. Neither team can run the ball very well. I think it could come down to turnovers in this game. It's going to come down to maybe some explosive plays. I think Arkansas can make those explosive plays, but I also think BYU can keep it close. So if there's not going to be a lot of scoring in this game, I think it's going to be close. So I mean, Arkansas, what are we doing against Kent State, man? What are we doing? I mean, if you look at like the box score itself, you're like, well, they ran the ball. No, they did not. Don't lie to yourselves, Arkansas fans. That Kent State team is one of the worst teams in the entire country. The entire country. This BYU defensive line is going to be a little bit more of a problem for you guys. So,
now they do have to get home. Actually, real quick, they do have to get home. They only have 1 sack on the year. So obviously KJ Jefferson is not an easy person to sack and to get brought to the ground. But obviously you can put pressure on them. You can do different things. Sacks are a little bit misleading. I don't love them, but they're also important. Like on third down, getting pressure on a quarterback is different than bringing them to the ground, obviously, especially KJ Jefferson.
Yeah, but like all I'm saying is that two teams that thought they had a certain identity that does not have that identity at all. I don't think these teams are going to figure out their identities necessarily in this game this early in the season. I think it could be a low scoring game, so give me the plus 10, right? But give me Arkansas to win because of the better quarterback.
Yeah.
The backyard brawl, Pittsburgh at West Virginia. I'm so glad that this game gets to get played this year and last year as well. That was an awesome game last year. What a way to start the year. Was that week 1? What a way to start the year on that Thursday night. What a way. That was a great game. And while the caliber of these teams has declined decently since then, I mean, look, the line's at +1 right now. West Virginia +1. We know it's going to be a close game. It moved
to even on Caesars, by the way.
It's moved to even now?
Even on Caesars.
Oh, okay. But for the purpose of the show, we'll act like it's +1, right? West Virginia at home. Look, I'm going to take the team that has a better offensive line, a better defensive line, and the quarterback that's playing better right now. And that team is West Virginia. Believe it or not, that team is West Virginia.
You're damn right it is.
That team is West Virginia right now. Gosh, Neil Brown is fighting for his life. This is a win that he needs. right? He needs it bad. West Virginia, yeah, they've gotten CJ Donaldson. He's gotten going in some games, but also they got some other boys in that backfield too that are
They
cooking.
do.
Garrett Green has not been as bad as I thought he was going to be. And I kind of like him. And Phil Dracovic, like he just does not look comfortable in the system at all. Right, 10 for 32. Goodness gracious. And here's the thing too. There are Pittsburgh fans out there that are actually calling for him to be benched, which is wild. Week 2. He should not be benched. And Pat Narduzzi knows that. He's going to send out the quarterback that gives his team the best chance to win, and that is Phil Dracovic, right? His offensive line is not amazing. I think West Virginia just bullies this game, and it's at home. No wonder this line is moving as fast as it is. And I've been back and forth, like whether I want to make this an actual play on Dawson's Diner later, for real money. But I can't help but really, and Hudson Clement, how about a breakout game from him for West Virginia? How about that? West Virginia, you didn't think you had a guy? Maybe you got a guy. I like that a lot. Pitt, I mean Rodney Hammond, he's a great running back. Get him going, man. Try to get him going, Pitt. I don't know if you can against the defensive line. So feed me Neil Brown's West Virginia Mountaineers at home to cover and obviously to win.
I'm gonna ride with you here. I West Virginia and a point. Obviously, I would rather. I just think if you gave me this line in the offseason, I would have put my mortgage on Pittsburgh. Not that I have a mortgage, but whatever I can muster, I would have put it on Pittsburgh. And now the line is here, and I'm taking West Virginia. And that just shows how quickly things can change in 2 weeks. That Cincinnati game, and we are not high on Cincinnati. This is not because I think Cincinnati is the dark horse in the Big 12. Peace and love to Scott Satterfield there and Emory Jones, who obviously had a really good game plan and executed it really well at Pittsburgh. But Phil Dracovic was bad. Corey Kiner of Cincinnati ran all over them. Yeah, he had a 68-yard run, inflated his stats a little bit. But you're telling me Donaldson and the boys in West Virginia don't have the juice to do that as well? And the O-line is something that we talked about was your bright spot on the team was your O-line. And they're going to lean into that, like you said. If they get ahead in this game, look for them to really, really lean on Pittsburgh. And Phil Dracovic got to catch up again for a second straight week, and he did not do very well against Cincinnati. They jumped on him, and he was 10 for 32. Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns, no picks. But 10 for 32, 179 yards is not it. It's not it at all. They need Mumfield to step up. Obviously, Bartholomew, the tight end, made a nice play. But just really, really frustrated and upset with Pittsburgh's. If you're a Pittsburgh fan, you should be really frustrated because you could start 1-2 in a season where you should be 3. Coming into the year, you were expecting to be 3-0, and here you are fighting for your life to stay above 500 already. But isn't that great? See Neil Brown. We thought he should have been fired a year ago, and the fact that he didn't get fired in the offseason and he stuck around with him, credit to West Virginia. Now, who knows how their season is going to turn out. But I was impressed with how they played Penn State, and Penn State's really good. Really, really, really good. And like you mentioned, Hudson Clement, who broke out well. Devin Carter's a guy that's there as well. We both really like. It's a nice 1-2 duo for them. And they got, an interesting gadget guy in Rodney Gallagher, a true freshman guy, a tight end, Kobe Taylor. But yeah, Garrett Green. I mean, good for him. Good for him. I'm excited for him. And I think that defense will show up. The Neil Brown defense team should be pretty good. Beanie Bishop had a pick, former Minnesota Gopher. Good for him. Yeah, he was kind of bad for Minnesota, I'll be honest. But him and Anthony Wilson seem to be playing pretty well. So yeah,
I will say like the conglomerate of this secondary for West Virginia is not good. It's not. They have not looked good at all. But I mean, this might be the worst West Virginia secondary since Geno Smith, Will Grier eras, West Virginia, right? But I don't think it matters. If Phil Dracovic is 10 for 32 against a team that has a good defense, but like if he's not able to actually find guys, and if he's not comfortable in this offense, and he's not comfortable in the pocket, I don't care what your secondary looks like. Throw out the junior high team out there in the secondary, see what happens. Don't actually do that,
What happened to Phil Dracovic? Like,
dude.
remember like a couple years ago, he was a dark horse to be like first round pick, blah blah blah, like yada yada. And he got the transfer. He got away from Boston College and that dreadful O line. And I won't say it looks worse because it was pretty bad in Boston College, but it does not look better. And I know it's week 2. I know it's a new system, but what?
I think a lot of
He's a
bad
guy.
habits. A lot
That's
of
what I'm
bad
saying.
habits.
Did
Jeff
Boston College
Hafley.
ruin him?
I think so, man. I think so. Imagine like if he had gone to Kentucky the same way that Will Levis went to Kentucky, I think we would be having similar conversations about Phil Dracovic as we did with Will Levis. I think there's similar
In
skill
terms
set.
of
Maybe not
in
like
terms
as
of
good
getting
of.
out early? Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe he's not as great of a arm talent as Will Levis is, but I think they bring similar skill set to the table.
Yeah, I this is a great game. Like you said, last year was awesome. It's a nice rivalry. This year West Virginia hosts it, which is it's a underratedly a pretty good atmosphere. I think for especially for big games. This obviously they'll be going
It's the
because
backyard
they
brawl.
yeah
It's the backyard brawl. What are we
yeah
doing?
lowest ticket right now $150 right now.
I love that. I love
That
that.
means it's in high
I love our
demand.
I love our pick, baby. I love our pick.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's get into making money. Making money. All right. Washington minus 11. I give that an asterisk, right? Because I'm not going to blame you if you didn't join the show earlier, right? Like in the summer. Glad that you're here now. But if you were here in the summer, this was a pick that was given out. So I'm going to put it on there with an asterisk, right? It will be included in the record because it
It was
was
on
on the
Twitter as
record.
well.
It's on Twitter. It was everywhere. All right. But we're happy to have you guys now that didn't get that early, right? Syracuse minus 2.5. I know Rondé Gadsden's hurt. I know that 2 of their offensive linemen are hurt, but Garrett Schrader has looked awesome. Their defense has looked awesome. Their wide receivers, which we thought was a weakness of this team, they've shown out. And they've shown that I think they can produce without a Rondé Gadsden. I get that the level of competition hasn't been there exactly, but I don't think Hudson Card is comfortable in Graham Harrell's offense. And I think Syracuse's offense is better than Fresno State's offense. So we'll see. Also, LaQuint Allen is way better than we even thought he was. We knew he was good. He is way better. I think he's better than Sean Tucker at this point.
Yeah, that's the running back. He was damn good for him.
Yeah. Clemson FAU under 52.5. Oh, this might be my favorite bet of the week. You're looking at a Clemson team that is struggling offensively. I get that they got to go in the second half versus Charleston Southern or whoever they played. I don't even know who they played. Terrible team. FAU's defense is good. Curtis Rourke did not look comfortable against this FAU defense. But also FAU failed to score an offensive touchdown against Ohio.
Tom Herman, man. And
Tom
Casey
Herman
Thompson.
and Casey Thompson.
Oh
So maybe
God.
Nebraska isn't missing Casey Thompson. I don't know. Maybe it's possible that Casey Thompson and Jeff Sims were just both not the guys.
I think Casey
So
Thompson is missing Steve Sarkisian. That's the
yeah. Yeah.
back to
So
him.
52.5. So a lot of places this is gonna be at 52. I would encourage you to find this at 52.5. That's a big number to get. 52.5 is a key number to get. So if those are still out there in places, if you can find 52.5, get 52.5. Kansas minus 28. This is balanced. 28.5, 27.5, 28. I know there's a lot of injuries on Kansas right now, but all those guys are going to play. And guess what? If Jalen Daniels doesn't play, I'm still taking minus 28. All right. Nevada is terrible, right? If this line was at minus 26.5, right? Idaho would have covered against Nevada. Nevada is not good. They're terrible. Feed me Kansas. I don't care if they run the ball every single play the entire game. I think Devin Neal is healthy. I think he will play. I think he will absolutely mow these dudes down. And look, you could say, oh, Kansas defense, they're not that good. If Nevada scored 6 points against Idaho, which let me confirm this. Six points versus Idaho. 33-6 was the final score. And they were at home. Goodness gracious. Idaho's first win over Nevada since 1999. Almost 25 years. Goodness gracious. Or maybe I think Idaho was at home. Nevada played a road game at Idaho. Whatever it was. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Give me Kansas minus 28. Give me all those points. I will gobble up those points. Doesn't matter. So feed me. So Washington minus 11, Syracuse minus 2.5, Clemson FAU under 52.5, and Kansas minus 28. There can be stuff that can be added to this list. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter at the Redshirt Sophomore. Yeah, I mean, follow us at Redshirt Sophomore. If you have any questions about, like what do I look for in teams, right? You can send us an email, man. We're happy to respond. DM on Twitter as well. Always responding to those. So make sure you guys are looking out. Let's make some money. Make some money. So that is the full slate that we covered today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I can't wait for this week. I can't wait for this week. Let's go. Let's go. That's all I can say. I'm excited when there's college football in general. I don't like the people that are complaining about this slate because if you're looking at this slate right here, this is a fantastic slate, in my opinion. This is a great slate. Maybe it's not week 2 caliber, but goodness gracious, I think we're going to see some flies drop this week. I think we are.
And the more and more we see teams play, the more and more we learn about them. And this is a learning experience for a ton of teams, I think. And I think, like you said, never sleep on college football, never sleep on a week, especially one like this. There's some good games. You'll be entertained all day Saturday. Don't you worry.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one.